Welcome to the Woodpreneur Podcast, the best podcast for the business and marketing side of the sawmill, lumber, and wood industry. What's a woodpreneur? If you have a business where you make money as a woodworker, sawmill owner, selling slabs, or a content creator, then you're a woodpreneur. My name's Steve Larziliera, and I started Woodpreneur Life, Acres of Timber, and the Woodpreneur Podcast just for makers, wood entrepreneurs, and small business owners just like you. We're on a mission to empower thousands of wood businesses to grow sustainably and put out great products. Each week, I interview makers, sawyers, content creators, and 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs that know the wood industry inside and out. With topics covering everything from the urban lumber movement, sustainable sourcing and design, we'll discuss the ins and outs of how to grow, monetize, and fully immerse yourself in the woodpreneur lifestyle. If you're a hobbyist, a full-time wood business owner, part-time entrepreneur who wants to become a content creator, or quit your day job to pursue your dreams, the Woodpreneur Podcast is just for you. Thanks so much for listening. Now enjoy this episode. Hey, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur Podcast. This is your host, Steve. Today's guest is a three-peater. He's the very, very first three-peater on the podcast. Mr. Jake Latvala from Olog and Sawmill.
How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Hey, you know, it's so funny. I have to laugh every single time because the very first time that you were on the podcast, you were just a wee little pup in the woodpreneur space. You were.
I was starting out, man. I haven't even quit my job yet when we first did the podcast. On our very first episode, I stepped down and worked part-time with Walmart when I started.
That's when, yeah, you were part-time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time you're on the podcast was you were well into going full-time.
Yeah, I was well into full-time. The second time we did the podcast, I was well into the content creating and building tables and trays and all that kind of good stuff. And then what I wanted to do, because I remember our last meeting, was I wanted to start branding. So that's when I want to start doing apparel, t-shirts. I want to start networking with big people. I want to start like branding my epoxy, stuff like that. We were talking about making big moves last time.
Big moves.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember I had done a couple of websites, a couple years ago, and I was like, Jake seemed like a good guy. I remember calling you and be like, hey man, I want to build a website for you. And it was just going to be like a few $100s. I was like, but I think you need a website. And I remember you being on vacation in New York. You're like, hey man, I'll call you back. I'm on vacation in New York. Was that your first time to New York?
Yep. That was my first time.
And you called me back and you were like, I don't think I really need a website.
Yeah. I wasn't big enough for a website yet. I wasn't, because at that time I was so small that Facebook and Instagram was taking care of my, my local. I was getting enough local stuff that I wasn't even planning that far ahead at that time. I just wasn't ready yet.
Was that the wrong mindset for back then?
Yes, because I wasn't, back then I quit Walmart, and in my mind, I just wanted to, make a few dollars and live under the radar.
That's right. Yeah. You had little dreams. No, I don't want to say little dreams. You had modest dreams. Dreams, right?
Yeah. I wasn't wanting to. I didn't realize I had a addictive personality when it came to the business. So when I started, I just didn't, I just wanted to make a little bit here and there, and then go and drink beer with my buddies. You know what I mean? That's when I first started out. That was my thought process. But then
I think you said you like all you wanted to make was like match your salary from
like
Walmart.
$60,000 a year. Yeah, I just wanted to make $60,000 a year, and I would have been fine.
And you were happy.
And I was happy. But then when I got into the business, I started getting a lot of customers, and I started getting a lot of followers. And then the more I learned about business, the more I got addicted to the business.
Yeah.
And so then it started becoming like a game to me. Like I learned the whole tax game. I learned the whole like becoming an actual business and how to use your tax write-offs for you, how to use your business for you in the whole tax reason to grow your business. And this is why I got addicted to it. And then it's like branding. All right, how much stuff can I brand? Now it's like, how big can I get? So everything I learned, I want to get it bigger now. Everything I've learned. Now I went past as you grow into a business, you have to make decisions, right?
Yeah.
The first decision was, do I want to be a woodworker that spends, at first when I started, I just wanted to be a woodworker that did Morrison tenon joinery. I didn't want any like screws in my tables. I wanted everything to be intricate. But then I realized doing that type of woodwork takes a long time to make any type of money doing something like that.
You don't want to be too romantic about it.
No. You gotta know if you want to make money or be a woodworker. It's one or the other. You're either going to do this as a business and you're going to be a woodworker, and you're going to find those. You don't want to take on too many projects. You just want to find that niche and then learn how to make a business off it. Like for me, I fell in the right time with epoxy. I started epoxy 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's right when it all started.
You know that, yeah. And that's when I think we started working together. And I can't remember if it was you reached out to me or I reached out to you.
We were doing one of our coaching meetings. We had but
before that, how we even got to that point. Like, I just, so, I mean, for everybody that knows, Jake was a client. Now he's a friend and a business partner. But one of the things that I liked about Jake, and I always tell people about, and I always use it as an example, was that you were very clear about what you wanted, right? And you were very clear, and you said, I want to be the biggest sawmill in Arkansas.
Yep.
And I remember that was the first thing that I asked. I was like, what's the goal? He was like, I want to be the biggest sawmill in Arkansas. And, a lot of times people get very like, I don't want to say what I want, right?
Yeah.
And when you're not clear about what you want, you never get what you want.
Yep. You gotta have some sort of goal to reach.
Like a measure. And so tell me, when did you know that you were the biggest sawmill? And again, I just got into it with somebody on Facebook, on Instagram, about, like, I posted something about like how people say, oh, how's your little business going? And then, people saying, like, you can't really look at yourself as a, little business. And somebody was like, you're a big business when you have 50 employees. I was like, you don't need 50 employees to be a big business. That's stupid, right? Like, big could mean anything. It could mean popularity. It could mean sales. It could mean number of wood, your asset. It could be anything, right? So like, in your eyes, when did you know that, like, I mean, obviously you're always achieving goals, right? You're always setting goals. Like, when did you know that you were like, I mean, I remember this story a little bit, like when you know that you were like the biggest, most popular sawmill in Arkansas. When did you know?
When I figured that I was popular here in Arkansas was when on my content, when I started getting all my followers in the forums, I would reach out when people asked where they can get their local source of wood or epoxy from, and you start seeing Olog and Sawmill in the forums, right? So you have certain companies around me too in Arkansas. There's like 3 or 4 other people. We all know who each other are. And so on like the Facebook forums and the Facebook marketplaces and stuff, when people ask who to go to and you start seeing your name being brought up more than the others, that's when you start realizing, I'm in the running top, the running top 3 at least.
Yeah. It wasn't when you went to the airport and somebody walked up to you and tell that story.
I was at the airport and someone just walked up to me and said, hey man, I like your videos, keep it up. And I was just in a random airport. I wasn't even in my local airport.
It wasn't even your local airport?
And that's a trip. I was even in Texas once, and that same thing happened to me in Texas. So it's a trip knowing, social, everybody asks me, how did you get so big so quick? And it's social media, and it's putting yourself in front of a camera, doing live feeds every day, doing stories every day, constantly making content, and it's free advertisement.
It's free advertisement.
It is the easiest time in a lifetime for everybody right now to become millionaires because of social media.
Remember we had talked about, you're like, listen, you just need to show your face every single day. Every day.
Yeah.
You need to show your face. And every day, it's like you have your own little show. And now you literally have your own little live stream show. But like, you know, through your stories, you just educate people.
Yep.
So talk to so for those that don't know, in last like summer of 2021, Jake and we had partnered before then. We launched Loggin Epoxy, and so so that kind of came about, and we kind of like, you know, quickly built this community of distributors, some ambassadors, made a bunch of sales. In a very short period of time, we broke 6 figures. Not profit, revenue. So, but we're building a brand, and we're partnering to build this brand. Talk to us. Tell everybody about like the vision for Loggin Epoxy.
Well, for Loggin Epoxy, and this is how I look at it. When I was a distributor for an epoxy company, I realized that epoxy companies out there relied on content creators like me to boost their brand, to make them name well known. And so now that we have our own epoxy company, I want to hand that back to the distributors. So basically, we want to build your brand, yeah. Right? And so our goal as content creators, to build each other up and to build up this, not only our epoxy brand, but your brand in general. And by doing that is we all put each other in a big group. And whenever one of us posts something, we all get in and we like and we comment and we share that post, and it changes the algorithm and everything. So our goal is to build your brand, because the more that you make, the more that you're going to sell, and the more volume that we're going to get out there. Yeah. That's where you come into play, Steve, because you know, when I came in, I didn't have a website. I didn't have, you know, I didn't have a shipping rep. I didn't have anything like that. I didn't know how to do my social media very well. And then that's where you come into play. So for the people, they're going to start out just like me, that come out the distributors. If you need a website, bam, you know, we'll hook them up with a website. We'll hook them up with our shipping rep all over the country. You know, we could do that sitting here anywhere. So it's going to be great, this little involvement wood community that we got going on.
And it's great. And it's you know, lots of people in US, lots of people in Canada. We have interest from people worldwide. Well, I mean, the sort of big announcement is that Jake and I are starting a new spin-off podcast to sort of document the path and the growth of us building Loggin Epoxy, and the stories and the tactics and the strategies and our thinking behind it. And the biggest thing, one of the biggest things is that, like, you know, we're all, for those that are woodworkers, you know, like epoxy is kind of like this very amazing value add, not just for the wood products, but it's a great sort of community builder and a way for you to earn money too. So why don't you talk a little bit about the community? As you know, I mean, we're really modeling Loggin Epoxy based off of your path and replicating it for anybody that joins, right? So talk about the community and the other things that happen because you started selling epoxy.
Because I started teaching people how to do this stuff. And, you know, and a lot of people also say you're creating competition for yourself when I do that. And I don't create competition for myself when I teach other people, because there is so much money in this game. There's millions and millions of people out here that everybody can have their own little niche and their own little customer base, whatnot. But I started teaching people how to do it, not so they could buy my product. Right? Because I don't make my money necessarily off these big tables that I build. It's what I do is I teach people off all my projects off doing this stuff. And then in return, you're you're going to buy my lumber and my epoxy, my pigments and all that kind of good stuff. And it's about trying to get your product down as low as possible. So for you as a woodworker, if you're building these tables or trays or something like that, your most expense is going to be what? It's going to be epoxy. Epoxy is the most expensive part of your project. So how are you going to get that lower? How are you going to get that cost lower? You're going to become a distributor, right? Become a distributor, your cost lower. Then if you're like me and you have a little bit of land or whatever, how are you going to get your wood? You want to try and get your wood lower. So as far as distributors that don't have a bunch of space and don't have a bunch of land or whatever, we're also going to be offering lumber as well to the community. And we're also a big Woodworkers Friends, because if you're here local to me, we offer services, milling services, flattening services, drying services. Now I got the iDry Plus. So now I'm offering servicing to everybody here locally, and then pretty soon I'll be distributing this stuff worldwide as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, so the podcast is going to it's going to come out in a couple weeks. We're super excited about it. Yeah, it's going to be called the Epoxy Business Podcast because we're literally building epoxy business. In epoxy business, we're also helping people build their own businesses using epoxy as well. And we're just, I don't know, I'm excited. We've been talking about this for 6 to 8 months since we started this. Yeah, I don't know. What are you excited about with this podcast?
What I want to start seeing, Steve, is we start interviewing each of our distributors and stuff, and get them on board and start building their brand, start building their community. It's a good way for our distributors to get their names out there and to get everybody to start following them and stuff like that. Absolutely. Stuff like this, podcasts, little live feeds, everything. Every type of little marketing we could do to help our distributors, the better. Whether that's helping building your brand by boosting your posts and talking about your posts, sharing your posts, and then these things, podcasts, interviews, stuff like that. Everything will help get your brand and your name out there.
Absolutely. And then the other thing too is that we're going to be just documenting the things that we're doing to help grow our business, in addition to bringing on our distributors and our people in our community. And then you get to also hear how Jake is building his business, things that's working for him, things that's working for me and my business. For those that have been following, I'm building a little shop myself. In a month or two, I'll be doing more epoxy work myself. So we're not only the president, we're also clients. So we're literally going to change the game. Like we are. I don't like the flex much, but when you love what you do and you're surrounded by people that love what they do, like you can't not succeed, right? And
you're killing it on those boards, Steve, that you've been you did here this past through the Christmas when you weren't in Chicago. Where were you?
I was in Michigan. Yeah. Michigan. That was like my grief therapy. And like it's so nuts. Like, I mean, that's the thing too. It's like I didn't even have epoxy. I ended up making like $1,000 in like 4 days. And I was like, I can't wait to just do epoxy. I just can't wait to use it. And, the other thing too, is like, I want to use this platform that we have to just educate people on, like our partners in the epoxy. We're going to have Alan from Lab Surface, our partners. We want to be as transparent as possible. Like, again, I'm transparent on this podcast and with our clients. Jake, if you know him, his whole story too, right? Like, and he's transparent, like what people are doing in business. Cause like, again, there's no competition. Like there's more than enough money out there for everybody to succeed. And we really, by listening to this, we're hoping to literally just win you over with kindness and information and charm and community and all the things that you need in order for you to succeed, right? Like that's it, right?
In this game, and I've always said that everyone can make money in this game. Everybody, the woodworking community is bar none the best. I have never ran into any haters. I've never into any hatred. Everybody's willing to help each other out.
Yeah.
And it's all part of building the business. And the same in the epoxy. It's funny in this epoxy world. There's a lot of competition in the epoxy world that doesn't necessarily need to be competition. For example, when I first started here locally, there's about 3 other people that did just what I did, and automatically everybody was in competition mode. But now we've all learned how to work together, and we make more money off each other by working together than we were at competition. And I think it's the same way it can be in the epoxy world too. We just haven't figured that out yet, but I know for a fact that there is game in that as well.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is like we listen to what our customers and our distributors are saying, and and whether it's changing things or improving things, like we're open to, you got to be open in business to do different things and try new different things. So but yeah, I'm excited. Everybody go check out, just kind of stay close to Jake, Olog and Sawmill, Olog and Epoxy. We'll be making an announcement. It'll come out in a couple weeks. This new epoxy business podcast is kind of crazy that we have like a podcast just on the building an epoxy business. This is super exciting though.
I know it is. And it only makes sense because we've both pretty much started this from the ground up, and it's succeeding. So it's like, it's one of those things where I tell people, and if you guys don't follow along with me, what I do is I just basically, like Steve said, I'm transparent. I walk through all my projects and my stories, and I talk about what goes wrong, what goes right, what to do to fix it, and all that kind of good stuff. And then we talk about business, and I only talk about what I've experienced. And with what we have been doing, what we have been building, it's been working. And I think everyone can have a part in it. Everyone can play a part in it, because all we're doing is teaching people what I did from what I started out. And then it's up to you. We can give you all the publicity in the world, but it's up to you as the woodpreneur or as the consumer to get yourself out there, make yourself visible. Everybody, because then people that watch you, they grow a relationship for you. They have some sort of feeling for you, and then they can relate.
They relate. Yeah, they relate. Yeah. Anyway, these are all the things that we're going to be talking about. If you like the sound of myself, and if you do, I mean, I know you do because you listen to this, but if you like the sound of Jake and myself talking together about the wood business, and it's not just me, go and check out the Epoxy Business Podcast. Oh man, I'm so pumped, bro. I'm so pumped.
That's going to be great. It's going to be great for everybody. So we're all will learn and talk business and grow with each other.
We're going to kill it.
All right.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
Right, we'll see you next week.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out the latest episode of the Woodpreneur Podcast. If you found value and love what you listened to, please subscribe, rate, and review so that more people can learn about our mission and vision. Lastly, join our community, the Woodpreneur Membership Community. It's a marketing and training program to help you market and build your wood business past 6 figures. Give it a test and apply what you learned to your business.